So this is a photo of me on my first day at work, raring to go for my career ahead. And then this is a photo of me just 3 years later on a roadblock as part of a climate protest. When you step on a plane, do you ever think about the impact that flight is having on the climate? For me, it was something I thought about every day. I used to be an airline pilot. I had to hand back my license 3 years ago due to my concerns about the climate crisis. One of the things that really made me realize how bad the crisis had got was in the summer of 2021. I was flying over Spain and a column of smoke appeared on the horizon. As we got closer, it became clear that we were flying over a wildfire. I could no longer ignore the direct impact my industry, the thing that I loved and worked in, was having on the climate. And from then on, I started experiencing something called climate anxiety. Eco-anxiety to me is a rational reaction to the threat of ecological or societal collapse. But also emotionally connecting to the climate crisis is a pretty hard thing to do. It's coming to terms with your own mortality, the mortality of the natural world, but also the failures of people in power, of the airline industry, to be doing something about it. Flying makes up about 2% of global carbon emissions, but when you take into account the heating impact of things like contrails, it's actually 2 times as much. And unlike other industries that are decarbonising, aviation is not. It's actually increasing. I felt an obligation to do something about it. So I would talk to colleagues at work, but what was really important for me was to join marches with climate action groups, and that way I could make my voice heard in what seemed like the only effective way left. Every year, as part of my job, they would list the top threats to flying. For the first time in 2021, environmental activists were the second biggest threat. And I was sat at the back of the room, almost like the naughty kid at the back of the class, thinking, am I the threat to the industry? Threw myself all into climate activism. I now work for a community of aviation workers called Safe Landing that want aviation to flourish in harmony with nature. So the top things that I think the aviation industry needs to do: pretty much abolish private jets, reduce the amount of business and first class flying, because that's much more energy intense than economy, implementing something called a frequent flyer levy. The more you fly throughout the year, the greater you pay for your ticket. And that way we can pump that money back into the aviation industry to bring all the solutions that we desperately need. From the year 2000, all but one efficiency and emissions targets that the aviation industry has set has either been missed, quietly abandoned. So it's clear that the industry can't regulate itself. It's going to have to be regulation from government. But the biggest thing that I would like to see is giving power and a voice to aviation workers to have a say on how they want the industry to transform in a way that benefits both the climate and aviation workers. And we're not telling the average person that they can't go flying once a year. But if we continue down this path of eternal growth and increase in emissions from aviation, then we might ruin that chance of having that ability to fly in the future.